it wasn't all that long ago that Ravens Steelers embodied everything great about defense. And who knows? That could very well be the case come Sunday. But based on what I've seen so far from this Ravens defense, particularly the pass defense, and the issues it has had with personnel, deep ball, middle part of the field, consistent pass rush, you name it, all three phases, and now injuries have come into play a little bit as well. We'll get to that report a little bit later on in the show, particularly when it comes to Kyle Hamilton's status going into week 11. It just has been so far from Raven-like. And it's well documented how much change this group has endured. It's well documented how inexperienced Zach Orr is, and it's well documented how difficult of a stretch this team has had in terms of the opponent. But when I see Jameis Winston having a day against the Ravens, when I see Jamar Chase going for video game-like numbers twice in a matter of a month and a half, when I see Baker Mayfield picking this place apart, when I see tight ends having all day long and having so much success in the middle part of the field, I think to myself, who is this team? And really, will this defense prevent Lamar Jackson from getting to where he wants to go? Can Lamar possibly overcome what we've seen truly evolve into the Ravens' Achilles heel in losses this year? Roquan Smith tried to address a lot of those concerns earlier today, and he was quoted for telling reporters, the standard is the standard, and each and every guy has to play to the standard. We can't allow a team to do some of the things that were done this past week. It definitely was embarrassing in a sense, but we've moved on from that. We're focused on Pittsburgh now. We've just got to get better. They're coming off a game, guys, where they allowed 470 yards to the Cincinnati Bengals. 421 through the air, 49 on the ground, and Jamar Chase had a career day. One that a pass catcher should never have if the Ravens are sticking to their standards, to their principles. 11 receptions for 264 yards, 3 touchdowns, a long of 70, and 17 targets. Mind you, T. Higgins didn't even play in this game. Yes, this was embarrassing. Ravens defensive coordinator Zach Orr echoed similar sentiments to his inside linebacker. Zach said he was crushed with how the defense played. It took him a couple of days to get over it. He said they had a film session on Tuesday where players and coaches were very vocal. He wouldn't expand on those comments, but I certainly got the sense that while it wasn't a players-only type meeting, I would have to think that that was a pretty tense environment during that film session. And I tell you what, would not surprise me if this guy was a topic of conversation. Roquan Smith in his second full season, year number 3 in Baltimore after being picked up during the 2022 campaign and then being awarded a mega resetting contract, 5 years, $100 million for Agent Zero, transformed the Ravens defense in 2022, had an electric all-pro season for them last year playing alongside Patrick Queen. This year, he's been a shell of himself. I was disappointed to see recently that he had unfollowed me on Instagram. I certainly feel like I've been fair with some of the criticism. He didn't like it. He's got a right to unfollow, of course, as everybody does. But it tells me that he's seeing a lot of this. He's seeing a lot of these criticisms. He's seeing some of the noise that's out there right now, and he doesn't like it. Or Brian Baldinger put up a piece recently, as he always does so incredibly well on social media, his Baldy breakdowns. And DJ here on X reached out to him and said, and he's a member of the Ravens flock community. And he said, hey, Baldy, can you do a video on Roquan? He's just lost out there in coverage. And this is the leader of our defense. We need help figuring this out. Well, you see Baldy there in the bottom responded to DJ. And he said, I agree and can't figure out what's wrong. I have an opinion, but it's better to keep to myself. Sort of a cryptic way, respectful, don't get me wrong, but a cryptic way of leaving it up in the air in terms of what is going on with Roquan Smith. He's been a step behind. Some have commented on his figure, his physique. What I've noticed, while the intensity pregame is still there, and the tone-setting media sessions are certainly still there, and the physicality is still there in the run game, underneath pass coverage, he's been a liability. It's the hard truth. Listen to the guys at ESPN talk in depth from a film studies perspective, not just about Roquan, but about this entire defense as a whole and what's gone wrong for Baltimore in recent weeks.
Defense is the defense you want to get after. I mean, this is not a defense that can win the Super Bowl. It's just not. And I think that's the thing that if you're Baltimore, are you going to play George Pickens one-on-one and then get after them in that capacity? That's what I'm going to be watching.
J-Mac, you have tape on just how much the struggles have been of that Ravens defense.
Yeah, they look like they don't know what they're doing when they're dropping in zone coverage, as if they haven't kind of gone over it. Right here, this is cover 6 they're playing, which all this is you're playing cover 2 to the top side. You're going to look at these guys. You have 2 guys in that area. The inside backer has to stay inside for the in cut. They're both running to the flat, opens it up. That's an easy completion right there for Joe Burrow. This is week after week. Right here, cover 3. Both your corners on the outside, they have the deep part of the field in their area. And then you have a safety in the middle of the field and 4 underneath droppers. So it's so important for these guys to be on the string. And Roquan Smith right there is just drifting away. He's not looking at the quarterback breaking down. That opens up that lane for Jamar Chase to catch the ball. And somebody tackle him. There's no way a guy can catch the ball and just run through the defense. This is something I think they're going to have to do. Just play man-to-man and lock up everybody. This is a key 4th down. There is nowhere for Joe Burrow to go with this ball. People say, well, why is he throwing the ball deep? Because nobody is open. Their defense, their pass defense, has to step up and play better.
There you have it. From the professionals who have played this game, the middle part of the Ravens defense has been open for business for all the wrong reasons. Maybe, just maybe, why Baldy is saying, look, I agree, and I can't figure out what's wrong. I have an opinion, but it's better to keep to myself. I don't know what he's getting at there. What I do know is that this fan base is not the only one, not the only ones who have commented on Roquan Smith. Inside the NFL consists of Chris Long, Ryan Clark, Ocho Cinco, and Bill Belichick. Listen to what these guys had to say about the defense. And also, Roquan Smith gets added into this conversation as well.
Coverage work together. So, Chris, what are you seeing from this rush of the Baltimore Ravens?
Well, they just don't have that Batman. You know what I mean? That guy that's your lead dog that clearly you say. And Matabike's had a great year last year. He's starting to tick along now. But, you know, the guys up front not having a Clowney. You know, you talk about the attrition of losing a couple guys here or there, changing coordinators. This stuff compounds. I mean, you know, sometimes it's not just one guy, it's everything. But the pass rush for sure, losing Clowney, who won a lot of one-on-ones last year.
Yeah. Coach, you became a defensive coordinator at the age of 31. Defense coordinator of the Baltimore Ravens, Zach Orr, is 32 years old. How difficult is it to sort of delegate and give assignments to coaches when you're a young coach and your first tenure at the position?
Yeah, it is. It's challenging, you know, getting to know the staff, taking responsibility of the staff. Don't forget, the Ravens didn't just lose McDonald. They lost 2 other coaches, coordinators, too, in Miami and Tennessee. So it's a lot to replace. It's a lot of not just game planning and handling the players, but also handling the staff and just doing things as a coordinator that as a position coach, you weren't used to doing. So it's a big job there. They got a lot of work to do. As Chris said, the rush isn't very good. Yeah. Coverage hasn't been very good. They've given a lot of yards and a lot of points. I'm sure confidence is an issue.
But it shows how difficult it is to be good in this league consistently, right? When you think of this defense last year, we thought that was a large reason that this team could win a Super Bowl. But now, to me, you look at Roquan Smith, he seems a step slower.
Just a tick.
People on this team aren't making plays. And if you want to beat the two teams coach is going to talk about in the game plan, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills down the stretch, you have to be able to do it.
Ryan Clark comments on how Roquan Smith looks a tad slower. Chris Long says just a tad. Even if it is just a tad, even if it is just a tick slower, that means something. These guys are witnessing what we're witnessing on Sundays, and it hasn't been boding well for what's up with the Ravens right now defensively. And going in to Sunday, going into Pittsburgh in a hostile environment, what is Russell Wilson always known for? And what can he still do at a high level? Kill you with the deep ball. And even if he only has one hard-hitting, game-changing type player that he has chemistry with in that category by the name of George Pickens, the Ravens have not yet proven that they can take out opposing teams' top pass catchers consistently. Brandon Stevens is having a brutally difficult year in coverage. No other cornerback team-wide has allowed more yards than number 21. I wish we didn't have to talk about him that way because I think he's such a consummate professional and made a hell of a play to intercept that Joe Burrow ball in the end zone last week. But he didn't get both feet in. He got both of the same foot twice. And so whether it's been Brandon Stevens, whether it's been Eddie Jackson before he was benched, whether it's been Marcus Williams, collectively, even if it is just a handful of plays every single week, this team is below the mark. It's not acceptable. And you guys can say, Bobby, stop being so negative. Bobby, stop being such a pessimist. Look, I view it as an objective view of what could very well be the sole reason what keeps Lamar Jackson away from a Lombardi this year. They have a championship caliber offense. There's no question, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I have questions in January whether or not Lamar has the tools to overcome what's happening with this defense right now on the back end and the inconsistent pass rush that they've been getting. They're coming off their best pass rush game so far this season with 40 overall pressures. Got to Joe Burrow early and often. Hopefully they continue to stack those types of games and build off of it. But when the going gets tough and January is elite and the postseason is around, will Lamar be able to overcome what this defense has been putting out on tape, assuming that they can't transform themselves in a month and a half? The jury's still out. I'm sorry, the jury is still out on whether or not that's the case. I wanted to add one more thought in as well that just came in, and so we're staying fresh here. Take a look at this. And this is referring to our earlier conversation about Roquan Smith. What you're looking at here is a chart, and let me go big screen just so you guys can see what I'm looking at. Okay? This is a chart that was made by Throw the Damn Ball, Judah Fortgang on X. What you're looking at here is the 2024 linebacker separation prevented and on-ball grade chart. This is a minimum of 150 primary coverage snaps. It's raw PFF on-ball grade over raw PFF separation prevented. Y'all see where Roquan Smith is? not exactly where you want to be. Roquan, to be exact, has been picked on. And he's allowed 9.2 yards per target. Trenton Simpson, his running mate, has allowed 8.9. Those are tough numbers, particularly when it comes to inside linebackers. The underneath pass coverage game has been a liability. Other teams know that the middle part of the field has been vulnerable, and I expect Russell Wilson and company to obviously have a decent amount of success picking on the secondary from a deep ball perspective, but also the checkdowns, the intermediate game, the tight ends, running crossers. Look out. It's an area that has to be shored up. And this chart, not where you want to be if you're the Ravens inside linebackers. Patrick Queen hasn't been all that much better, by the way, but that's neither here nor there.